Next Pitch TV showcases the most innovative equity crowdfunding campaigns for the verdict of the crowd.
Meet Julian Rodriguez, founder and CEO of Momento AI. He is a serial entrepreneur. Julian loves leading teams that build easy-to-use products that solve large problems.
And a very good afternoon. I just turned on the recording. I hope that's okay.
Of course.
Okay. Well, welcome to Next Pitch TV, Julian. Definitely, I must say, you have a fascinating campaign. I mean, on the edge of time, no question about that.
Yeah, thank you. We're very proud of what we're working on, for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't get much more in the spirit. So my first question, if I may, is to actually ask you what actually led you to do this beyond the obvious, I suppose.
Yeah, so, I've always been a technologist, I'd say, right? I went to school for computer science in university. And right out of my senior year of college, I got involved with what at the time was a research project known as Bitcoin. And so, I joined the Bitcoin magazine, and the co-founder there was Vitalik Buterin. So, the Ethereum white paper is a 6-page spread in the magazine. And so, right, that was 2014. And yeah, I've sort of been on ground zero, I think, of groundbreaking tech for sort of seeing how the public adopts these new technologies, how they're applicable, how they sort of scale and sort of go global. And yeah, I think I became very good at sort of identifying breakthrough tech, right? Things that I thought could really scale quickly. And in 2021, I started an NFT sort of startup, right? Which was the original version of Momento. And, we worked with a lot of content creators, celebrities, athletes, and influencers. And I think it was clear to us that what people wanted to do, they didn't necessarily want to buy and own people's content. They wanted to do was engage with the people, right? And it was clear to us that the only way to scale that level of engagement was through the use of AI. Right. And so we originally got this suggested by those stakeholders, right? The influencers, athletes, and they said, hey, why don't you just use AI so that I can unlimitedly sort of speak to my fan base? And that's where we started going down this rabbit hole. Like, how could we make AI good enough, sort of replicate the human conversation, right? Human engagement on all levels, audio, text, reasoning, and here we are.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, it almost sounds like the ultimate pivot. In other words, where you go from blockchain and crypto and NFTs, etc. So say, there's got to be a more practical way to do this that is applicable. And clearly you found it. That is really delightful to see. In fact, I noticed this is your second company. Is that right?
Yes. This is my second company. The first company was not as high tech as this. And there was a lot of low tech headaches, I would say. With that, we were a wholesale distributor. We had refrigerated trucks, pickers and packers, a lot of manual labor, a lot of spoilage and inventory, and it was definitely a learning experience that I don't miss.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I used to be one of my 12 companies. The biggest one was in the customized watch business, and man, all the headaches, inventory, and blah blah blah. It's kind of like, man, there's got to be a better way. Digital ultimately seems to be the best way to get there and to scale and so forth. So clearly you seem to have in your own way reached the same conclusion there.
Yeah, for sure.
For the benefit of our audience, could you please summarize exactly what Momento AI is and does?
Yeah, so today we are really sort of defining the concept of the digital twin concept, right? So with our foundational models, now you can create a digital twin of yourself, right? Sort of like a clone. So it sounds like you, thinks like you, and it responds like you. And so you can either just sort of set it and forget it, and it sort of engages on your behalf, right? Or you can engage with it, or you can spend the time to sort of train it proactively, right? And so there's this new concept, thanks to AI, called vector databases that allow us to store information similar to how your brain sort of stores memories, right? And this, once you put all these sort of technologies together, you get that very human-like effect, right? Where it's almost virtually impossible for people to tell distinguish whether they're talking to an actual person or just a computer.
Right. I mean, it's both exciting and frightening, quite frankly. as you're well
Yeah.
aware. I noticed that you make a big deal about the security and protections and so on, which definitely is central to this. But boy, the implications are immense. Now, if I understand it correctly, let's assume I created my digital version, I suppose. Am I understanding it correctly? I could really ultimately use that even to create content, literally.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, right. So the models are getting more sophisticated, literally, I would say every week, right? And so everything from reproducing, again, audio, right? Some people are using that for songs, music, right, to recreate sort of all the vocal spectrum of things that humans do, to actually drawing, right? I know Midjourney is very, very popular around that. Even the AI interpreting images for you, right, is sort of where a lot of the research is focused around now. For sure, I mean, right, I think today any content creator or influencer realizes that they need to be on multiple platforms at one time, right? It's just not sort of one place. And so you could sort of do that in a very, right, like basic way, or maybe you have a platform, schedule it and sends it out. Or you could be more deliberate about understanding that certain platforms need certain types of content, right? And there's no better tool than AI to think about that for you.
So in that case, are you suggesting, for example, that one would, in effect, create maybe the essence is the same video, except this is a version for YouTube, which is more, as an example, more focused on one component, I suppose, while another version of essentially the same video is created for another platform because your audience there might be different. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. For short form or for static images. Yes, exactly.
Wow, amazing. Now, one thing that intrigues me is that in your first venture, if I understand it correctly, you used VC capital. Is that right? Or angel capital, one of the two?
Yeah, we raise venture capital for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the reason why I'm asking is because I'm personally absolutely intrigued with equity crowdfunding. That's why we're here. So my question really is, if I understand it correctly, you already raised 4.5 million for this new venture already, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of, why are you bothering, in relative terms, with the headache of creating an equity crowdfunding campaign and all that comes with it?
Yeah, so I think the truth is it's not much of a headache. Start Engine. We're on Start Engine. Start Engine makes it really easy to sort of manage this. So it was two things. We had done a product launch to the public with the concept and got really, really good reception. And there's one thing that happens when you're sort of building is that you're always sort of building in a silo, right? It's just you and your team. You never really get any actual feedback. Sure, you see users using it, but you kind of have to infer behind like an iron curtain what it is that they're clicking, why, and whatnot. And what we learned from our product hunt launch was the more people we got it in front of and made it, we're able to communicate the message to a broader audience, the better we became as a team. So the next logical step was, okay, let's allow the public to own a piece of the business, right? And we had a lot of early adopters that were asking for that, right? And so I think it's harder to take money from VCs than it is to crowdfund, for sure. And there's no way that we could fit them into sort of the high risk asset class that was like a bunch of safe notes or price round in a seed round, right? And so VCs and regular investors kind of don't play well. So there needs to be an entire different vehicle, which is set up for the common person, the common user. And that's where equity crowdfunding sort of solves that problem. And so, again, thankfully for us, I mean, I think, the Start Engine team is really great. And the setup was easy for us. And, now we get a very visceral feedback loop. The comment section of our page is full of people just asking questions or suggesting things. And these are things we would have never heard of or even thought about if we didn't take this route. Right. And so, yeah, I think the number one plus, besides obviously the capital to help us continue growing this, is understanding what people really care about. Right. What is the messaging that really resonates with users? And what do they see in the market? Right. Are they generally tired of the way social media works today? Are they inquisitive or indifferent about content creators, right, and the problems there? Are they genuinely excited about AI? Right. And crowdfunding allows you to answer questions at once.
Right. I mean, it's safe to say that while on the financial aspect, it may not be the biggest cheese out there in comparison, I'm talking about. But boy, you sure do get feedback. And it's safe to say that many of the people who do invest in a crowdfunding campaign are much more engaged, certainly than, let's say, a VC or even perhaps an angel, case by case.
Yeah, no, for sure. That is for sure. I actually started giving out Calendly link in the comment section, hoping that more people would, book 15 minutes with me so we can sit down and talk. And people have been doing it. One guy sat with him for an hour, actually, right? It was a really good conversation. And so, like I said, I think as a young, startup team, we need more of that, right? Like, so this is just great learning opportunity for us.
So in other words, the feedback is as valuable as the funding.
Oh yeah, like I said, I mean, that's number one net gain for us is that feedback and us understanding how we need to communicate to our users.
Interesting. Now, I noticed that you signed an agreement with Amazon, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Wow, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. It's interesting because you're probably aware that when it comes to equity crowdfunding, traditionally, there are really only two ways to exit, i.e. an IPO or an acquisition of the startup. So, those odds aren't so good typically. Mm-hmm. But with StartEngine in particular, you have the secondary market that you may eventually decide to get onto, which is at least a potential liquidity form for equity crowdfunding investors. Now, how does this potentially affect your VC fundraising? I think that after the crowdfunding campaign, I believe you are looking to actually continue to go back to VCs. Do I see that right?
Yeah. So, continue growing the business as usual, and whether venture capital or an acquisition come to the table, those are both options, right? I think for us, we were very cognizant about the fact that we're treating everyone on StartEngine like we would any of our seed round preferred investors, right? It just to us there is no difference, right? And so the goal here is some sort of liquidity event, right? And so I think fortunately for people who consider us as an investment, they might notice, right? Sort of the network and sort of the background there puts us in a good position to do that. Now your money is just as good as the guy who started Zynga, right? The guy who's responsible for Facebook's initial explosion, right? So I think that in itself should be a very compelling value prop for our investors. But look, if you generally really like and enjoy our product and what we've built so far, and you can see you or your friends or potentially people using it, I would say that is something that maybe deserves an extra look, right, to more of your time.
Absolutely. Now, but is this not traditionally, as you're probably aware, equity crowdfunding was considered the kiss of death as far as VCs are concerned.
I remember that.
You got what? 1,000? Oh, get the hell out of here! And as we both know, since the start of the special purpose vehicle, although I think StartEngine has a slightly different take on it, but the same essence, i.e., that they're pooled so that they're a single entry on your cap table. Is this something that you see as being a potential problem down the road as far as getting VC funding?
No. So I think in our particular situation, we still have a lot of leverage, right? We have all the leverage in terms of we're working on some groundbreaking tech. We've raised VC in the past. We are a proven team that has a live product, right? So typically, I think that startups that went for crowdfunding probably didn't have all of these things before they started crowdfunding, right? We are now crowdfunding sort of after the fact. I mean, we have revenue. Again, we have we are now over about 200,000 users, right? The product is live, and we had previously already raised over 4 million, right? So that's typically not something that you see on crowdfunding, and that's why that sort of idea is there, right? Because I can imagine a startup that essentially might be struggling to raise or is nosediving would see this as a last-ditch effort. We didn't arrive through crowdfunding in that way. And really, the impetus, like I said, came from two places. It was a group of our early adopters, but then also it was just a cold email from StartEngine This wasn't something that we were thinking about whatsoever. And we got a cold email, and they made it really simple in that paragraph, made it seem like it was going to be a breeze to set up. So we said, hey, why don't we do this?
And it turns out that it more or less was a breeze to set up, is what I'm gathering.
Yes, yes. It was very easy. Like I said, we already had a lot of experience from Product Hunt. We sort of took a lot of that, and we defined a little more material. So it's always good because from Product Hunt, we felt like we could say so much more, right? In Product Hunt, there was oh man, I think there was like over 60 questions, right? And so we felt like we'd left so much out, and then we took that, condensed it, and crystallized it, and it was very easy for us to set up our Start Engine page.
Wow, that is just so exciting. One of the examples, even though it is hypothetical, when it comes to equity crowdfunding, about which I'm very passionate, is that imagine that Oculus in its day, which, as I'm sure you're aware, raised, I'm roughing it, something like 2 million or something from Indiegogo, I think. Mm-hmm. And that's great. If you'd invested or bought one of their glasses, I suppose, let's say it's for $500, that's great. 6 months later or whatever, you get your Oculus, and that's the beginning and the end. Now, as we both know, a year or two later, Facebook bought them for $2 billion. Now, if that had been an equity crowd, it wasn't even around at the time, but if it had been an equity crowdfunding campaign, it's pretty obvious what would have happened to those $500, even though it's hypothetical at this point.
Yeah,
I can tell you that in your case, based upon the industry that you're in, this is actually one of the campaigns that I can really see potentially having outlandish returns for early stage investors. And that is very exciting. We're definitely looking for that kind of thing, even if I'm personally not too keen on the unicorn, focus everywhere. It's kind of like, look, we're looking for startups that grow 10, 50, 100 million. Plenty, thank you very much. It doesn't have to be a unicorn. But on the other hand, for the industry, this is definitely what we're looking for. And you guys are certainly on that track. And I must say, it's very, very impressive.
Yeah, no, I think the investor that sees the value here is going to have a savvy eye, but we're fairly confident they're going to be very pleased with the potential return. More than anyone, I can't sort of go off into sort of specifics or talk about things that might be tentative, but we are in the company, I think, the right constituents that potentially could lead a very good payday for everyone involved.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the potential is obviously there. The devil's in the details, as we both know. But you certainly are on the right track, and it's very exciting to see, especially your growth numbers. My God, I'm talking about user growth numbers. Yeah. Damn, that is very fast. What I didn't quite see, how exactly is a monetization? I know it's a service, but I didn't quite see how that actually works. Maybe you could go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so with the crypto background, remember, everything in sort of crypto is sort of instantaneous in the moment. It's all about buying and ownership and sort of trading, right? And so initially, a lot of our revenue was due to that. We transferred that into sort of like a tipping gifting model, where now you can sort of tip and gift like you would on TikTok or on social media at large to your favorite sort of creators. But the bulk of our revenue in reality, and you're right, I don't think I've ever really defined this, has really been through paid partnerships, right? So there are brands that want to work with these creators, work with these assets, and now work with these AI clones. And they will pay money up front. And so we're looking to expand on that initial kernel and turn it into a true sort of ad exchange, right? Where now it's not like, 100K, 150K sort of paid partnership contract. Now it's sort of a pay as you go, test the limits, where now they can put into an individual creator sort of a campaign budget, right? $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 at a time, and test the market, right? I mean, so far we've sent our AI has already sent over 800,000 messages, right? So that's something that's very, very appealing for brands and marketeers. They want to get in the middle of those conversations, right? And so now because it's your AI clone, it's not our AI clone, now you can monetize that, right? So long story short, it's everything between tipping and gifting, subscriptions, and sort of this new ad model, B2B ad model.
Right. I noticed that in your, call it the timeline, I guess is what it is, that you mentioned the evolution after this campaign, I believe, of that marketplace. So
Yes.
in a way, one could almost say it's a little bit like saying, hey, influencer, you are already good at influencing. Why don't you come to the next step almost, where we give you the ability to create your own avatar, or personality, as it were,
Yeah.
but we can even let you potentially tie in, I guess, to sponsors is really what it comes down to, I believe.
100%, 100%. I mean, if you just look at the internet as it exists today, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc., Twitter, it essentially works that way in a very rudimentary, manual way, right? It just kind of evolved that way. So it's very inefficient and inaccurate for the brands and the marketeers as well. And you can see it because Facebook's ad exchange marketplace is massive. It's huge, right? And it generates billions of dollars in revenue. So we're sort of going in that direction around actual personalities and conversations, right? Right now, we have users that I'm assuming, before they wake up and tell their mom, good morning, they're saying good morning to the AI clone, right, that they're talking to.
Right.
And so, a lot of people suggest that there's a loneliness epidemic in most of the modern world. And I think people just yearn connection, right? When you have a conversation with somebody, it's never one way. You're always thinking about what you're saying and how what you're saying makes you feel. And so conversation is an introspective practice as well. And I think the more opportunity we get at that, right, the more fulfilled humans feel. This is the number one thing we've been doing since the beginning of time, right? It's like eating, using the bathroom, sleeping, and then conversing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Although the other side of the coin, of course, is, my God, the number of jobs that AI eventually will probably displace is people are going to get more depressed about not having a job than anything else. But we'll worry about that when we get to it, I dare say.
Yeah, I don't think our AI will be displacing too many jobs. I think that this is a form of initially entertainment, but also revolution in communication. But I do think the technology, because now we're very intimate with it, of course, we know the potential of what a lot of this can do. I think we're in year one of the next 50 years of AI. This is literally year one. And so, yeah, I think the entire global economy is going to be transformed. And the amount of wealth is exponentially larger than anything that I think we can calculate so far, right? Even the calculations that we're looking at, when we talk about $400, $700 billion market, et cetera, 10 years, I think those numbers are way low, considering all of the things that could be changed and revolutionized, right? The speed of adoption of technology and change just means that this is exponentially different from those traditional calculations that we have for the global marketplace. But ultimately, I think that the quality of life of individuals will increase. And I think that the focus or the perspective, the priorities in people's lives will shift, will change, right? But I don't think that this is a net negative for society. But I think that there's just a lot of opportunity and a lot of positive things ahead, right? What we have seen is workers across the globe become more productive and be able to extract more value from their work through the use of AI, right? Remote, sort of what they call sort of like the intelligent jobs, right? Software engineering, design, marketing, right? It is now sort of more of an even playing field, right? Where I think ultimately that is a positive thing.
Well, I certainly hope you're right. I mean, we will find out. Nobody knows for sure, but it is definitely an exciting area, and you are definitely in the forefront thereof. And I think that is so exciting. So thank you very much indeed for coming on this interview and sharing your thoughts with us. And I wish all the very best to your campaign, and hopefully it'll live up to your expectations and you'll go on to change the world, literally.
Thank you so much, Ralph. This is great. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a great day, no?
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Embarking on a journey of investment discovery is effortless with nextpitch.tv. As you enter the platform, a plethora of opportunities unfolds. Choose between featured campaigns or browse weekly showcases on the homepage. Each just a click away. Immerse yourself in a campaign's essence through a captivating video, then swiftly access campaign summaries by clicking View Campaign, facilitating informed decision-making. Personalizing your experience is seamless. Mark campaigns as favorites with a star and contribute to the community by rating them. Wonder My Rating. When you're ready to take action, The campaign button becomes your portal to the campaign platform, where comprehensive project details empower your investment or reservation choices, providing a user-friendly interface for seamless navigation. With nextpitch.tv, your journey into investment potential is guided by convenience and enriched by informed participation.